the risk should not all be on the CISO when something goes wrong. And most of the time, it's something that's been out of their control. You know, someone hasn't followed the rules or the governance or the processes, or it wasn't picked up by the technology in the time, right? My particular edge that I believe gives me an advantage, you know, with what I'm doing is that got the behavioural insights. So we were able to go through and I can map and talk to this in more detail, but this is typical behaviour of someone who's then going to lead to ransomware. So it's essentially profiling, very similar to what detectives do with, you know, criminals, right? So we're talking about cyber criminals here. And if we have a look at it, it's not that different. So they'll go and profile a typical criminal and say, you know, this is a potential next step and this is the type of behavior that they might have. And so we were able to go in there and have a look and see a bunch of logs that had been deleted in particular systems. We could see it was a higher user credential with higher admin access, you know, privileged access than normal. We could see, you know, the entry point. And then we were also able to see that, you know, if we try to, we can't see exactly where they are now, but we don't want to reset passwords. We don't want to do anything next. We don't want them to know we know they're in there. And because if we do, they'll suddenly get out and they might do a whole bunch of data exfiltration. So it was also, you know, having a look at that behavior, profiling, and then going without the actual evidence that anything has been compromised right now and saying we still want to investigate further. So we, in order to do that, there was a bit more resourcing required, and again plugging in a forensics tool that could then go and extract through your logs and data, and then we could find where they were lurking. And I think a good way to, people often think, well, where would they be lurking? And I was talking to a client the other day and trying to explain that, you know, you can breach a system and everyone says that they've got, you know, their Excel spreadsheets that they use and they don't upload them to the system because that's their spreadsheet, or they download it and they adapt it and then they keep running with it, or their Word document over here. That's where they hide, right? That's where they hide. They're not hiding in the main systems or networks. So when we're initially looking at it in cybersecurity and we're trying to find them, we're looking in all the main arteries, but they're down in the veins somewhere. So it's harder to find because there's just a whole lot more network, you know, that we have to delve into, but also, you know, the data that could, you know, be exfiltrated. So then we had to think about, and it wasn't me, it was, I have a forensics investigator who works really closely with me, that he is the absolute behavioural analyst that was able to go, I think we're going to go ransomware next. And so he was the one that went onto the dark web and found that there was already data for sale on the dark web. So it wasn't from that particular breach. It was from a where they'd been breached and didn't know it from before. So yeah, it's the profiling. It's understanding that this will lead to something. So there has been an alert, right, of unusual activity, but we can go in and go, actually, that fits a profile.
Okay, with so much to do, then let's go to the question about prioritization. With so much to do, how do you determine, well, first of all, it's getting to understand the risk appetite of the organization. And I'm interested, you know, again, drawing on your behavioral science type insights, how do you draw out of people what their risk appetite is? And then when there's multiple challenges, how do you determine which is where you focus?
Yeah. Look, it usually comes down to the P1s, right? So there's priority ones that come through. Sometimes you can get down into the priority twos, but most of the times the things that are going to get the attention are the priority ones. And so, you know, you can only have so much time to get across, you know, everything. And so from the behavioral science side of it, you know, you have to look at it and then again, you know, do the profiling, make sure that, I suppose for me, from prioritization perspective, it's making sure you understand what the risk landscape looks like. You understand the latest threat intelligence. You know that right now 85% of compromises are credential theft. So therefore, you know, it's more likely to be that. In terms of the risk appetite, so many organizations haven't actually done that. As a consultant previously in Big Four, one of the things I was tasked to do with a whole team, it was 20 people nationally, was to go in and look at the cybersecurity advisory risk appetite and to work with the boards and the executives on what is your risk appetite. And so we would take it to tangible things like, ransomware. Someone's holding your data on this particular asset. Would you pay it or not? Would that put you out of business? You are looking at paying and supporting criminal activity. That's not a good thing, but is the survivability of your business more important? So it's taking real life use cases and scenarios and quantifying what they might look like, and that's just an example of it, to then build a bit of a risk appetite into policies, because you can't have a risk appetite policy, but you can have a ransomware policy, you can have an incident response policy, you can have your playbooks, and they can have the risk appetite built into them.